Hi everybody, welcome to the Vaadin 21 release live event. So last week we had an internal Vaadin 21 release event and I thought that was pretty fun. So what I wanted to do is try out a new format. So I invited the whole ensemble cast that we had last week in our internal meeting to join us for a live stream with the whole community so that we can show what we've been working on, who's working on it, and take all your questions. So let me start introducing all the people that we have joining us today. So first of all, we have Manolo coming, release lead for the Vaadin platform. Hey, Manolo.
Hey, Marcos. Hey.
Then we have Gilberto, who is the product owner of Fusion. Hello, Gilberto.
Hello, Marcos. Hello, everybody.
We have Mikhail joining us. He's a senior software developer on the Flow team. Hey.
Hello, Marcos. Hello, everybody.
We have Rolf joining from his cottage, I heard, product owner design system.
Hi, guys.
Then last but certainly not least, Leif, CTO, frequent guest of the Vaadin webinar series. CTO, like I mentioned, has opinions about several things, including collaboration engine today.
Hi, CTO, as you mentioned.
Good. All right, so welcome to everyone. So the way we're going to do this today is somewhat different from the normal webinar format that we've had. Obviously, we have so many people joining us today. But essentially, I'm going to hand it off to Manolo, and he's going to talk a little bit about the platform release, and then we'll go through the different teams and what they've been working on. Throughout this entire stream, if you have any questions that you would like to ask us, be sure to ask those in the chat. And then we'll answer all the questions towards the end of the stream. All right. Anything else you want to say before we get started? No? All right. Well, I'll add this and I'll jump off the stream and hand it over to you, Manolo, then.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, the new version includes hundreds of commits compared with the previous one. So, and they are spread over many repositories that compose the platform. So we have a collaboration engine, we have Fusion, Flow, etc. And the release train has arrived almost on time, despite having the vacation period in the between. So this picture is part of my vacations. This is one of the most beautiful beaches in Spain, in the amazing Asturias, with some Spanish beer, which is amazing as well. So let's continue with the presentation. This is the cake for the occasion that my family has made for this release. It's not a proper cake, but just a sweet bread named cloud bread. And but settle in your set and in your seats and take a drink, some snack, and let's present V21. As you can see in this slide, 21 comes with a lot of features in addition to important changes in stability and documentation. So it's worth to list them. The security helpers and the road scope implementation in Flow. Fusion has re-implemented the generator of TypeScript for nullable objects. DS or design system has made possible to export charts as pictures, new events for grids, use of generics in DS for data components, and utilities for styling the application. In collaboration engine, we have the new presence manager and the message configurator. And we have also a new archetype for Flow, Flow with a Spring. And finally, renovation of the website. If you have not visited yet, please visit it because it's worth to visit. So for all of this, we had 10 alpha versions and more than ever in the releases in Vaadin, to the point that we had to fix several scripts that failed when having 2 digits in the version number. Also in about 1 month since the first alpha, it was ready for acceptance criteria. which means that all features were implemented. And it took about 15 days to test and resolve the findings for the beta period. Then when testing during the beta and also during the release candidate, we had some problems, last-minute problem that we had to resolve to the point that we have to delay 1 week the release of the Vaadin 21. But also, even when we were releasing it, we found a couple of issues, and we released 21.01 just a few days ago. Let's move forward. The important content and the stars for today are myself on the behalf of Manolo, Mihail for the flow, Gilberto for Fusion, Rolf for the design system, and Leif for the collaboration engine. As you can see in this slide, we have changed the logos for each product. So I hope you enjoy them. Well, although the work of the platform team is huge for new releases, it's not really visible. So I wanted to show their faces in this slide so as you can know them. So we have Guillermo as a technical lead and manager, Tarek and Sami working in the onboarding team. This is making easy the first contact of users starting Vaadin. Marco is our writer. He takes care of the documentation and other contents. Marta and Arten with their hands on the quality assurance and security of the product. And she and me making the release happening on time. We care also of the continuous integration, delivering, deployment, etc. So for today, it's worth to mention a new archetype developed by Tarek in the onboarding team. As you can see in the slide, you can now have a sprint and flow project just by using the Maven CLI with the syntax shown in the snippet. But we can also use this archetype from any Java IDE, which is a very common practice in Java developers. The project just adds one view and a couple of lines of code, but it has a full skeleton for the developer to start playing with Vaadin, with Spring, and everything that you need for your application. So yeah, we continue with flow. Mihail?
Yeah, thanks, Manolo. So before we start looking into what is new in Flow, let me introduce Flow team briefly. So Matti is our product owner. Pekka is the technical lead. Denise, Miguel, Mihail, and Soros are developers in the Flow team. So let's start looking to the features introduced in Vaadin 21. The first significant feature is Spring Security Helpers. So this security helpers has been introduced in Vaadin 20 for Fusion, but now in Vaadin 21 we created so-called view-based access control mechanism, which provides developers the possibility to restrict an access to their flow views by annotating flow views with following annotations. There are 4 annotations currently. Anonymous allowed annotation. It basically allows all the users navigate to this view. You can see it on the right side of this slide, public view, which is annotated with this annotation. So all users are able to navigate to public view, including authenticated users and not authenticated users. Next one is permit all annotation, which permits access for authenticated users only. The next one, more strict, is roles allowed. This one only permits access for particular roles. In this example, the admin role is the one which can navigate to this view. And also we have a deny all annotation, which is not shown here, but it's also present. It restricts access for all the users to a particular view. And to enable this mechanism, this feature, one should extend Vaadin Web Security Configurator Adapter class, which was introduced into the Spring add-on. And once you extend this class, view-based access control mechanism will be enabled by default. And then you should annotate your views with annotations. Otherwise, default access will be denied all, means that all your views which are not annotated will be restricted, will be denied. This feature also provides an API for setting a custom Vaadin login view. So you can create a login view based on a login form or in other way, and set it to your security configuration via its API. View-based access control uses the same set of annotations like as for Fusion endpoints. Yeah, and as I said, access denied by default for all non-annotated views. So basically, we have this feature for Spring application, but we also have an implementation for non-Spring application. The way how it is being enabled in application is different than for Spring, but the semantics of annotations and the common way of doing that is the same. And on the right bottom side of the slide, you can see two links to documentation. One, the first one is for Spring application, and the second one is for non-Spring application. You can follow this link and get more details on this feature. Okay, let's go to the next feature. Road scope for Spring. So what is the road scope? Basically, the road scope has been implemented already for CDI add-on of Vaadin, but Spring didn't have it. So what is the road scope? Road scope allows you to restrict the lifespan of your components or of your beans to the particular sub-roads or subset of road hierarchy of your application. In this example shown on the right side, we have a product view and child views, product detail view, and product stock view. And if you, for example, have some service bean which provides some data to your views, and you annotate it with a road scope and provide the also annotation road scope owner, giving product view class as a parent class, this bean will be retained within this navigation between product views. But as soon as you navigate to, say, location view, this bean will be destroyed and recreated again. This is basically useful when you don't want to store the data, the state of your bean for a long time, but you want to make some cleanups when the user go out of this road hierarchy. Or maybe you want to close some resources or connections as soon as user go to another view. This road scope feature includes also some benefits we also implemented. Preserve road scope beans after page refresh, meaning that if you enable preserve on refresh annotation for your application and you refresh the browser page, your road scope annotated beans will be preserved, meaning that they will be not destroyed and the state will be retained, preserved. And also, it's easier to migrate from view scoped annotation included into Vaadin 8 to the latest Vaadin version. Basically, road scope has the same semantics as a view scoped, so the only thing you need to do is just replace view scoped annotation with a road scope, and that's it. And also, road scope semantics in CDI add-on has been aligned with a Spring, meaning that road scope annotation behaves exactly the same as road scope annotation in Spring. So no difference in behavior since Vaadin 21. And if you need more details on how it is, how it works and how to use it, you can follow this link to documentation given in the right side of the slide. That's basically it for flow side. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So now we go with Fusion. Gilberto.
Hello, hello. Let's talk about Fusion in V21 then. So before things go, and I made the signal for Manolo to go to the next slide, and he didn't see it. Yes, Manolo, you can go. Yes. So this is the team behind Fusion, and this showcases the diversity we have at Vaadin. So here we have one Chinese, two Finnish, two Russians, and one Brazilian. I'll let you try to figure out who is who. So let's go. Then, so what's in V21? We started delivering what we're calling the split between Flow and Fusion. So for those who are using Fusion, they know that it's kind of weird situation currently that you're using Fusion, but the entire Fusion code base is actually in the Flow repository. And some of the packages were also using the Flow namespace. And like, are you using Flow really, or is this Fusion, or what's the deal here? So we are splitting out from Flow, but this is a long process, and we don't want to introduce any breaking changes to Flow itself. So we're doing that gradually. So the first things that we have done is we have a Fusion repository now. Not all code is there. Actually, there's just a small piece of some front-end stuff in there. But please, if you want to create any issues for Fusion, either bug reports or feature requests, please use this repository instead of flows. Then we changed it in the Fusion endpoint module. We renamed the package to remove the Flow namespace from there and use Fusion. That's something we have done already for V21. And also the development mode server is now in a separate module. That also helps things out. We started migrating the TypeScript client code to separate NPM packages, but it's not finished yet, so it's work in progress. But the point here is we are aiming to be 100% independent from Flow code base-wise. This doesn't mean that we're not going to support the hybrid case. That will be always supported. You can have Fusion and Flow in the same application. That will not change. What will change is if you're using pure Fusion, then you should have just Fusion stuff, not Flow. And the other way around is also what we're aiming for. So if you're using just Flow, there should be nothing related to Fusion in your class path. So that's the goal, and that's what we're building here. And another thing that we introduced in this release is the nullability change. So now is the TypeScript generated code is more in line with what you have in the Java server side. So in Java type system, no is always a possibility. There's no way to say in the type that some variable or some parameter can't accept no. No instance of anything is false. So no is everywhere, and by default now we have the same behavior as in TypeScript. If you're sending a Java object, if you don't put any annotation, then it's assumed that that object can be null on the TypeScript side. You can tweak that behavior by using the no-null annotation. So if you know that something will never be null, then you can use that annotation, and then in TypeScript, it will also assume that it's not null. So this is a breaking change for existing applications, but this is like it goes in a direction that is more aligned with the defaults from Java. So then it's technically more correct. That's basically what we have for 21. There are not like a bigger changes yet, but what's coming is what's very interesting. That's what we have been working on. Manolo.
Oops.
So Stateless Fusion is coming, and that's we are aiming for V22. So this is a long process that we have been working on this since V19 even. So to make Fusion stateless for real, currently, even if you don't need a session, Fusion creates a session for you, and if you delete the session, then things can go wrong. But starting from 22, you will have stateless by default, so you don't have any server session unless you want to. But that's for the future. Here we're talking about V21. When we have something to announce on this, then we're going to make some noise about it. That was about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilberto. So now the token goes to Rolf, speaking about design system.
So let me first introduce the team. So in addition to myself, we have two tech leads, Yuri and Guillermo. And we have, let's see, how many are we these days? We have 8 developers: Diego, Sergi, David, Sergey, Hadi, Tommy, Sasha, and Farhad. And all of these lovely people are working on our components, our themes, the design system publisher tool, and basically adding new features and doing maintenance for those. So let's have a look at what these people have been doing for Vaadin 21. First of all, we have finally, again, SVG export functionality for Vaadin charts. As many of you know, this was something we had in Vaadin 8, but this feature was lost in the Vaadin 10 version of charts. So we have now brought it back. And obviously, there are a lot of awesome things you can do when you can export your charts to SVG. First of all, you can store them as SVGs, and you can convert them to other file types like PNGs and so on. And you can embed them into PDFs and do all kinds of fun things with them. So that's probably one of the most upvoted features we've done for some time. And the size of the SVGs generated is configurable. A couple of caveats. One of them is that you do need to have Node.js installed on the server running the application. And when it comes to styling of the charts, the traditional CSS styling is unfortunately not currently supported. So if you're applying some custom styling to the charts with CSS, when the chart is exported to an SVG, that styling is not retained. However, we recently reintroduced the Java styling API to Vaadin charts. And if you're using that to apply styling, then that is actually retained in the exported SVG. And you can find documentations with more details about this feature in the URL at the bottom of this slide. Then we have, as part of the Luma theme, we have a utility class module. So utility classes are CSS classes that apply commonly used styling to elements without you having to write that CSS by hand. So this is things like shadows and colors and spacing and even quite a bit of layouting, actually. So this is very similar to Tailwind CSS, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with and probably all of you have heard about, since it's very hip and trendy. All the cool kids today seem to like using utility class libraries for their UI implementation. So we figured we'd jump on that train and provide you with a set of utility classes that are based on Luma variables. And by that, I mean that, for example, when you apply the BG primary utility class to an element, that will give you the Luma primary blue color, or whatever color you have configured your Luma primary color to be. And for example, if you apply the XL size shadow to an element, that will get the corresponding Luma shadow styles. So if you have tweaked your Luma styles using the CSS variables that Luma provides you with, then using these utility classes, that will reflect those styles that you have applied to Luma. And you can find documentation for the utility classes in the URL at the bottom of this slide. Then we have generic types support for our TypeScript APIs. So that basically brings generics to Vaadin Grid, Vaadin Combo Box, Vaadin CRUD, and the new Vaadin Virtual List. And Gilberto is apparently very happy about this, so we added an extra element for him just to celebrate that fact. There's documentation about these generic types at the URL at the bottom of this slide. And then finally, we have the ongoing polymer to lit conversion. So basically, to give some background, we are converting the entire Vaadin design system, all of the UI features, from polymer to lit. Because polymer is kind of pretty much dead by now, and lit is the new big thing. And so we want to migrate to lit. And while we are not currently converting components themselves to lit, we have been doing some groundwork for that, which for Vaadin 21 includes replacing iron list with a new virtual list element, replacing iron icon with a Vaadin icon element, dropping the polymer specific template APIs from components, and also we provided a adapter that basically gives you kind of a backward compatible way to still use templates if you want to do that. And we've also renamed the render and update methods to be more lit compatible. So this is what we're introducing in V21. Work in progress still at the moment, right now, that will be introduced in Vaadin 22 are corresponding changes to the template renderer and the iron resizable behavior class. And I think that's all we had for the design system.
Thank you, Rolf. Quite a long list of things. Well, now we go with the collaboration engine. So Leif is the collaboration man today. So Leif, I think he's taking control of the slides. Leif, hello.
Hello. Yep, hi. So collaboration engine, that's us. we have a guy named Tullio, we have a guy named Giovanni, we have a guy named Luis, then we have me also helping out with, helping out with collaboration engine. I thought also maybe tell a little bit about it, because you might not have heard about it so much since it's a new thing. But what we really want to do is to make it possible to have real-time collaboration for all users and by all developers. So making it really easy to have real-time collaboration in all the applications. And what we have been doing so far, all in all, not new in Vaadin 21, one is to kind of see who is present with something, kind of seeing a list of avatars or something, then discussing things with others using the application, and then editing things together. And the way this works is kind of, there's a 3-layer architecture here going on, or there used to be. We have a new layer now. But really basically have really generic components like avatar and avatar group, for instance. These are not part of collaboration engine, but done in association with them. So you can use them in any way you want for whatever you want. Then on the other end of the architecture, at the real bottom, we have the really kind of core collaboration engine stuff. So that's different ways of sharing data between all the UIs and all the users. So there's a collaboration map where you just have a key of map of keys and values, the collaboration list, and so on. And then kind of tying those together, there's, for instance, collaboration avatar group, which is then a special variant of avatar group, which immediately gets its data through this shared collaboration engine stuff. So in that way, you can kind of combine both ends in a really easy way. But the thing that we're doing now, starting from Vaadin 21, is that we also introduce a new layer here between the specific component and the generic low-level data sharing. So we call these collaboration managers. And with Vaadin 21, we introduced the first one, which is the presence manager. And what this does really is it helps you helps you kind of access the same data that collaboration avatar group accesses. So you can do whatever you want with that, because you can have programmatic access to it. So for instance, like we have here on the example, you can create another list of users that is displayed in a completely different way, even though it shares all the data with collaboration avatar group. Or it doesn't even need to share it. It's just an easy way of creating your custom kind of representation for the same kind of data. So in that way, you can build your own components, like the example here on the right, or then you can also integrate with, for instance, an existing avatar group. And the way you use this is something like this. So this user list could be implemented in this way. We have just a vertical layout component, and in the constructor, we create a presence manager instance, and that's the thing that will kind of do all the magic of syncing users or the data from different users. You give it an instance of the component that is kind of the lifecycle owner. So whenever it's the active user list instance is attached, then this thing is also active. Then a local user, which is who you are, and then a topic ID. So just a string that identifies kind of context, whatever you choose. And then with this manager, you can just add a new user handler, which will get invoked for all new users. And when you first run it, it will also be called for all the existing users. And then, for instance, you can create a user card component, which shows like one user, and then add it to the vertical layout. And then finally, you can return a registration for removing that component once the user is no longer present. And then if you want to, you can mark yourself as present so that the local user instance will also be shown. Or then if you want to just have a way of kind of seeing who else is there but not revealing yourself, then you can also not mark as present. So we, for instance, use that when we have a grid of all the items that you can edit, and then you see who is editing this without adding you who are looking at the grid into each of those rows also. So that's Process Manager to give access to the collaboration avatar group data. Then the other feature in Vaadin 21 is message configurator. So this builds on top of collaboration message list that we added previously. And now it's also possible to customize how those messages are shown. So for instance, you might want to show your own messages that you have sent in a different way. So in this example, with a different background color and then aligned to the right instead of to the left. You can also edit the actual content of the message and so on. So using this, you have a collaboration message list, and then you just set a message configurator to it. That's a callback that receives a message object and the author of that message. And then you can, for instance, edit the text there. So I don't know, replace magic strings with icons or something. And then also you can add theme names or do other things, for instance, based on the author or whatever you want to have. And that's the second feature that we added in Vaadin 21 for Collaboration Engine. These things are also compatible with Vaadin 14.7 that was released just yesterday. So you can use them there also. And finally, I stole a trick from Gilberto saying that for Collaboration Engine, cluster support is something that many have been asking for, and it is coming. So thank you.
Thank you, Leif. So I think we have done. Now we have time for questions. Let's Markus take the microphone.
Yes. Thank you, Manolo. Thank you, everyone, for presenting. It was really kind of interesting to see kind of in one release number, there's quite a lot of people involved, a lot of things getting done, and just kind of seeing all that laid out in one presentation is pretty good. All right, so we've gotten some comments coming in, and I think we'll start with a warm-up question here. So hopefully everyone here will be able to help up Mohammed here, asking, with Vaadin, does it handle all the UI code so you can build an app without knowing any CSS or JavaScript?
Who wants to take that one?
Well, you're already speaking.
Definitely not me, because you know.
Yeah. So I would say basically yes. With Vaadin Flow, you can absolutely create really nice looking, well-functioning UIs without writing a single line of CSS or JavaScript. So you will need CSS if you want to, for example, change the styling of the UI, or if you want to create some kind of custom layouts or create your own custom components. But as long as you're just working with Vaadin components and the Vaadin and the built-in Vaadin layout components, you can absolutely build applications without any CSS. And the same goes for JavaScript. Unless you're building your own components or want to provide some kind of custom client-side functionality, there's absolutely no reason for you to write any JavaScript either.
Thanks, Rolf. Yeah, he had a follow-up question about, is there a link to a good series of videos to learn Vaadin A to Z? So I'm gonna plug this tutorial series that I'm working on right now. So right now, if you go to the docs, you can find the text version, and I'm actually in the process of recording a video version of this that I'm pretty much going to have done this week. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel. We should have a updated, brand new Vaadin 21 version of this tutorial that will take you kind of from beginning to end on building a Vaadin app. All right, good. So now we know what Vaadin is. Let's check out some of these other questions. So we'll start with some of these new Spring helpers. So what if we want to have the role access to be configurable? So if I register my new admin role and grant it to admin view.
Okay, I can take this one. So basically, if you want my new admin role you should customize your user details service for Spring or your Realm or other applications. So setting the roles itself is decoupled from view-based access control mechanism, basically. So it's not flow responsibility to to set up the roles, but it's a general thing, and
Yep.
the flow checks this role, takes the allowed roles from Vaadin requests, HTTP request, sorry, and then it looks into roles allowed annotation and compare them, and if they match, it allows the access. But when I showed the example, there was an admin role. It's just for example, and basically, if you need more roles with another names, you should just add them into your user details manager or user details service.
Yeah. So essentially, it defers to Spring Security, so you can set up your roles in Spring Security.
Yeah, right.
Good. All right. So continuing on flow topic, for route scope, what order are beans injected in? Child first or parent first?
Thanks for question. It's a good question. So if I'm right, the parent go first, but basically the parent navigation target should be instantiated first, and then child roles should be instantiated. But generally speaking, it depends on the dependency injection implementation of your container, because as I might be wrong, but the implementation, road scope and implementation in Spring does not inject the beans itself, but it relies on dependency injection.
Yep.
Implementation in Spring, so it depends.
All right. Thanks for that, Mikhail. All right. Next question from Diego. He is trying to use Vaadin Designer with Vaadin 21 and having problems. Should it work? Awkward silence. Laughter. Any thoughts? Is it a bug or a feature that?
I'm working on it. I think.
All right. Maybe we'll come back to that when Leif has done some research.
Yeah, we are mainly targeting the Vaadin 14 LTS with Designer, so it's kind of we try to keep it working, but there might be some gotchas every now and then. But please file a ticket if you have issues still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we had a question: was somebody playing table tennis behind Gilberto when he was talking?
Yeah, blame my headset. That is, it has a very good noise canceling for me, but it gets all the noises around. And yeah, I'm sorry for that. I'm in this weird place that, 20 years ago that people used to go to a place to work together. Remember that thing? So I'm in that thing that is called office. And in this office thing that is kind of weird place, there is a table tennis here and a table tennis table, and people were playing while I was talking. And yeah, I realized that my headphones are not that great for this type of environment.
All right, lesson learned for next time. We'll not let you go to the office. All right, I think this is a good one for you, Rolf. So Michael is interested in current plans for web accessibility and barrier-free options because there are upcoming legal implications on this in EU and Germany, and I know across the world.
Yeah, I'm very glad you asked, because yes, there is some new EU directives that came actually already in 2018 that affect the public sector. that basically require all public sector websites and applications to be accessible. And in I think 2023 and 2025, there is also some new directive coming in into effect, which also places accessibility requirements on several parts on many parts of the private sector, like transportation and banking and so on. So accessibility will absolutely be a very important technical requirement for very many applications out there. And because of this, Vaadin actually has started already in March a project to ensure that the Vaadin design system will be fully compliant with these requirements. So we have actually partnered with a company called Tetralogical, based in the UK, which and they are basically some of the world's best experts on accessibility and web components. And they have done a comprehensive review of all Vaadin components and provided us with a report and issues in GitHub for the problems that they have found. And we have also worked with them to plan how we are going to fix those problems. And we are currently in the process of doing the first batch of fixes, which will be coming in Vaadin 22. So the first set of fixes are of a type that requires some minor breaking changes to the components. Not breaking changes in terms of API, but in terms of styling. So if you have done some custom styling, there will be a little bit of refactoring required or there may be a little bit of refactoring required on your part when you migrate to Vaadin 22 or 23. So once we have those initial set of accessibility fixes in place, we will release another set of fixes in Vaadin 23, and then probably a few more fixes in 23.1 and 23.2. And the expectation is that by Vaadin 23.2, all components should be entirely compliant with both EU and US accessibility legislation. I will provide more information about this a little bit later. There will be a blog post in a few weeks, and we will also publish a GitHub project board where you can follow the progress of these accessibility fixes.
Good, thank you. I noticed while you were speaking, I was scrolling through the questions. I missed one on the security stuff. So let's hop back to maybe Mikael is the right person to answer if the Spring annotations also work when using WebSockets for client-server communication.
Well, they should work. One limitation I can remember is that UI scoped annotation does not work with preserve on refresh, meaning that once you have some beans annotated with UI scoped and you have a preserved on refresh enabled, and you refresh the page, all beans injected will be destroyed and recreated again. But now for this, you should use a road scope annotation with road scope owner setting up with the topmost navigation target main layout. So if you replace UI scoped to road scoped with main layout as an owner, it should work. So you can easily refresh your page and all the beans will be preserved.
All right.
One addition there, I think, with using WebSockets, you might have to use a custom security context holder strategy so that it uses the Vaadin thread locals also. That's basically something that Peter was showing in the security webinar a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good tip. So we'll that's the previous webinar in the same series. So if you're interested in seeing kind of diving deeper into security, that's definitely a good webinar to watch. While you're speaking, Leif, let's ask a question from you about Collaboration Manager. Can I use the Collaboration Manager also as a kind of messaging service without the use of being everyone online at the same time? Kind of leaving a question which might get answered later. So maybe this is kind of like commenting on a document or something where I might want to ask you a question, but you might not be online when I ask that.
Yeah. Yeah. So with collaboration list, things remain there as long as you want them to remain there. You can even, there's integration even to store them into a database, because regular collaboration engine data is in memory. So when you restart your server, then it's gone. But specifically for the message list, there's also support for persisting them to a database, and of course loading them on demand also when they are needed. With Collaboration Manager also being mentioned, so we don't yet have a Collaboration Manager implementation, so the thing that gives you programmatic access to that data specifically for messages. That's something that we have it already implemented, just brushing up documentation and so on. So that will be in Vaadin 22 to give you also programmatic access to the messages.
Good. All right. I think we got most of the questions answered here. So with that, I want to thank all of you for joining us on this first kind of release live stream with the whole platform team and all the team leads and Leif present. So let us know how you thought this kind of format worked. What would you like to see more of? Like, what would you like to hear from the teams to understand better kind of what we're working on? So let us know in the comments. I'd also like to invite everyone to join our Discord. Let me see if I can get the link up there. So discord.gg/Vaadin. So this is the Vaadin community chat server. So if you want to come in and have discussions with the Vaadin team members and Vaadin community members, this is a great place to hang out and just kind of ask questions also when we're not doing webinars. All right. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all speakers for spending some time with the community. It was really interesting to see what all you've been working on. So with that, we'll end this month's webinar, and we'll be back next time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.